Hey there, brain hackers. Does your boss suck, or perhaps do you suck at leadership? I'm talking with Dr. Ken Keis. He's an author and leadership expert, and he says that most people suck at leadership, including your boss. So if you ever wanted to hate your boss or have a reason to hate yourself, I guess if you are the boss, then watch the rest of this video. Hey, Ken, welcome to the show.
Well, great to be on here with you, Dave.
All right, so really quickly, why do most people suck at their job or at being the boss, let's say, or leadership?
Well, there are two or three things, but if we think about it, a lot of times people think they're doing a good job. So their perception of their abilities is a gap. There's a gap between their abilities and what they think that they have. So we talk about self-awareness or self-management, which leads into self-mastery. Is they believe they're doing a good job and they're actually not, and they haven't received the feedback to say, oh, by the way, Dave, you're not that good at supervising other people.
Now, hang on, is this because they're the boss? Nobody wants to say anything negative about them? Because like the boss has a boss, right? Typically, and even the boss of the boss of the boss, his boss is, I guess, the stock market or the customer, right? So don't they, or you're not talking about that kind of feedback?
Well, yes and no. It means that with some individuals, if I'm not getting feedback, then how do I actually know what I'm doing? So there's another component in here. I remember being asked to speak at a Fortune 100 company. The vice president organized everything, but he was the only person who didn't come to the session. And so what happened to my credibility? He had all his regional managers in the room and said, oh, by the way, I'm too busy to go. So there was a study done and said, okay, what are the two main reasons that leaders fail? So the number one reason is a lack of interpersonal skills or emotional intelligence. We've all heard that in the news. I really don't have the ability to connect or communicate with others. The number two reason that people continue to fail is hubris or arrogance. I don't need that training from Dave. I'm sorry, I don't need it from Ken. I'm good already. So their openness to change, their openness to take a look at what they're doing, in a lot of cases, it's insecurity. They are fearful about what Dave might say about Ken's leadership. So rather than ask, I just do nothing. So the sin of omission applies.
Do you think that this is kind of like an American problem? Do you find this is worldwide? I'm just thinking of, some of the Zen parables and how, in the Pacific Rim, they approach leadership a little bit differently, although it's very dysfunctional in other ways, don't get me wrong. But, that old Zen parable of empty your cup so that it can be filled. We always have to get rid of our ego and realize that we can never stop learning as leaders.
Well, I talk about in two of my books, Deliberate Leadership and Transforming Leadership. First of all, there's the belief system, which you're talking about. What do I believe about leadership as a responsibility? Okay, so that's how I think about it, my interaction with others. Do I really believe that I'm serving others or you're subservient to me? So that's one thing. The second part, which is really, and I don't want to take away the responsibility of everybody listening and watching this, is that if I've never been trained to be a leader, if I've never developed the skills, if people haven't shown me how to do it, how would I know how to do it? So if there's never been evidence, never been demonstration of competency, then how do I know that you can do it? So an example is your friend comes over and says, listen, Dave, I'm going to take you on a flight. I've got a private plane I bought, but I've never been for training. I don't know how to fly, but I'm really motivated. I'm enthusiastic.
Right. But there's less thought put into how to actually run the business itself and be a leader of people than there is to be a leader of a machine, right?
Well, absolutely. And one of my colleagues works in law enforcement in the U.S. And so most individuals in law enforcement get promoted and the training comes 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 years later. Well, hang on. Isn't that backwards? Would you
that actually brings up the Peter Principle. This is something that came out in the 70s, but it's made a lot of popularity again recently. The idea that some, I guess, sociologist named Peter wrote a book called The Peter Principle, and then the second book was The Peter Solution. This was crazy popular at its time. Basically, the idea is, let's say you're good at a particular thing like sales or manufacturing, right? So if you're really, really good in your department, you're going to be promoted to run sales and manufacturing. And this is kind of like, the guy who's in charge of The Office, the TV show, who was like so good at sales. Now he's in charge of the sales team, but he sucks as a manager. He's inappropriate and of course hilarious and everything. So that's kind of the type of thing is you're always going to be promoted because of the way corporate culture works and people expect to be compensated for good work. You're always going to be promoted above your level of competency. Is that kind of what you're talking about? Is that making a resurgence?
Absolutely. The other thing is when we think about what are the skills that made me the number one salesperson. So I started in this industry over 30 years ago, being a sales trainer. So now I'm the number one salesperson, and now you're going to promote me to be the sales manager. Like you're saying, it's not the same skills or abilities to lead others as it was for me to be there. Now, one of my colleagues, Dr. Marshall Goldsmith, one of the top 100 coaches in the world, he wrote the book, What Got You Here Won't Get You There. So a lot of times what happens, the skills and abilities to be the number one salesperson, those skills now don't transfer into your new role. And you talked about the Peter principle. It's not that I might not be capable, but I'm not trained. All the things that I've thought about that got me here aren't going to go and serve me in this new position as a leader. So in a lot of cases, people are put in positions where they fail. They just have not been equipped to win.
Right.
Or if this has been culturally in place for years, Dave, then there's no demonstration from others to do it differently. I mean, you even saw this with Google a couple of months ago where there was all these people walking out because of harassment. So,
oh yeah, well, and also like Elon Musk and his own tweets, ruined him and got him fired from his own company that he started and things like that. Yeah. So, but the thing is, though, I mean, and we're just going to wrap this up here, but I just got to say though that part of this feels like it's just a good opportunity to rag about the boss, and sometimes it's just tough to be the leader. You fail a lot, right? So I think sometimes we have perfect vision in hindsight. But at the time we don't really know. But maybe that's what makes for a good leader, is just admitting you don't really know, to be humble enough to say, hey, I don't know everything. I need my team to get me there. Maybe that's really the best attitude for leadership going forward.
Oh, that's true. And the other thing is that regardless if my supervisor could be better, the reality is you probably could be too. And so we all have to take responsibility for our own space, our own contribution. If you're sabotaging or undermining that individual in that position, you're not really helping. So how are you any better than that individual who's trying to grow as well?
A personal responsibility and hard work? Oh my God, but I clicked on this video thinking I was going to bitch about my boss, and now I'm being told to have personal responsibility and hard work. I don't want to believe that, says somebody who clicked on it and is now clicking away. But I want to thank you for clicking today, and I want to thank you for being on the show. This has been very enlightening, and I think this is really, really important to know going forward.
Well, thank you.